Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Massive welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. How's life been treating you all this week? Are there any episodes that you've enjoyed or big tech stories you wanted to discuss? Or equally, are there any podcasts that you could recommend that I listen to? Or would you just like to share where you listen to this show? Remember, I'm the easiest guy on the internet to find, so just tweet me at Neil C. Hughes if you want to say hello, or even if you have any questions you'd like me to read out on this podcast. But on with today's show. Now, I always try to cover every angle of technology on this podcast and how it's affecting multiple industries right across the world. From big names such as MasterCard, Capital One and Adobe that have all been on this show, to inspirational startup stories from all over the world. Now today I wanted to talk about a startup that began in a lab by two Ph.D. students called Henrik in Denmark. Little did they know back then that it would actually go on to become a hugely successful software company. Now they're experts in the field of virtual tabulation and binary decision trees, but they promised me that they could make this sound exciting. And that was more than enough to get me intrigued. But if you're feeling intrigued, have no fear. I'm now going to beam your ears all the way to Denmark so we can find out more about the story behind this Danish software company called Configit that is now a global business. So a big warm welcome to the show, Henrik. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yes, thanks, Neil. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Configit. I used to be a professor of computer science in the topic of computational logic, where I worked for years before I started Configit. But I've now been the CFO of Configit for more than 15 years, and I had the privilege of a very great journey with the company. And one of the things we have seen is that over the last 5 years, we've grown the company by a factor of 10, and we plan to continue on that growth track. So this is based on some very strong trends in the marketplace for driving up the market where we operate, and I believe we're uniquely positioned to serve that market. So it's really exciting times in Configit for the moment.
You really have been on a fantastic journey, because I believe your startup began in the laboratory by two PhD students, and now it's gone on to become a successful software company, like you mentioned there, but which is continuously growing. But can I take you back to where it all began and talk us through your startup story and the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, that's right. We really started as a spin out of a university lab here in Copenhagen. And for years, I'd been working with a good colleague of mine, Henrik Hulgaard, who is the CTO in Configit. And we worked in an area of artificial intelligence called formal verification. So we looked at developing algorithms that could analyze integrated circuits and safety critical embedded software to make sure it worked correctly at the logic level before the chips were manufactured and before the embedded software were put into use. And more or less by coincidence, we came across a new interesting area, a new collection of problems called configuration problems. And we discovered a bit to our surprise that these algorithms we had developed for years for a totally different type of applications had a very good solution to these configuration problems. So we did some experiments with two of our PhD students, and we also had a master's student at the time who helped us work on it. And he, by the way, the master student became the first employee in Configit, and he's still employed to this date and a key member of staff in Configit. So we did these experiments. We found some challenging instances of these problems, which is how you normally try to approach it in research. And we could see from the experiment that the algorithms work surprisingly well. These are tough problems. You will have models of configurable products that can contain thousands and thousands of variables that corresponds to like dimensions in a highly dimensional space. And you will have thousands of logical rules that need to play together. So these are computationally very challenging problems. And to our surprise, this technology we developed using our knowledge we have built up over the years gave very efficient solutions to the problems. So we decided this time we would not write a scientific paper and publish it, but we would try to go for the commercial potential in the invention. So we started out a patenting process, and we founded the company with the three students. And that's how we started on the journey.
Now, when I was first came across you guys, the first thing that struck me was these fantastic and inspirational quotes that are littered all over your website. And straight away, I got the impression that there's a strong vibe over there, that you don't just want to be the best or follow other companies like sheep, but you actually want to stand out at being the best at what you do. I mean, is that something you were passionate about from the very beginning?
Yes, I would say indeed so. It's always been important for us to make a difference. You know, in research, we were always looking for problems that could really change the world, and these were the problems we wanna attack. And it was in the same spirit we started Configit. We wanted to make a real difference. And as I started talking about, you know, our software is solving these very, very hard problems, but it's important for us that when we embed our solutions, our algorithms into software, this is something that's very easy to use for people. So you should feel attracted to the software, you should like to work with the software, and be hidden for all the difficulties behind the scenes that are going on. So this is very much like when you have a good search engine like Google. It's so easy to use, you get so much value out of it. But of course, there's a lot of machinery behind the scenes to make this work as a good experience. And this is sort of the same ideal we are striving for.
Now, I understand that Configit was actually created to solve those complex configuration problems that we've talked about. But can you expand on exactly what Configit does and what makes it unique from everything else out there?
Yes. You know, Neil, these days we are seeing a lot of things happening in the world. And one of the things I'm observing is as consumers, we're becoming very demanding. We want what we want when we want it.
Yeah.
And there's in general an extreme individualization going on. We see that, for instance, in our use of media, like television, where Flow TV is losing out to streaming services where you can pick exactly what you want to see when you want to see it. Many of us get tailored news collections that fits what we would like to read about. We also get very individually targeted adverts, which can be quite annoying, but they are really targeted to what your interest is. And we see it in our smartphones. So a smartphone is an interesting example of a configurable product because the smartphones are the modern life's Swiss Army knife. We have each our own version of it. I mean, as soon as you turn it on, it'll start becoming a unique product for you because you install the apps you need on your smartphone, and your phone is very quickly very different from any other phone in the world. And for us, this is an example of what we would call very late configuration, where you adapt the product to your needs even after you have purchased it and received it. Most of the times, this configuration is done before you receive the product. And this is something we see as consumers. But in the business-to-business sphere, this has been going on for many years. Manufacturing companies that deliver industrial products, they're very used to have to provide tailored versions for their customers. So we can take an example from our customer base, manufacturing pumps. And pumps might seem as rather boring devices that just moves liquid from one place to another. But when you go behind the scenes, they are quite complicated pieces of equipment. And there are more than 2,000 different liquids you could imagine pumping. Some of them are nasty, corrosive liquids, so we have to be careful what pump you pick. So if you're a manufacturer of these advanced pumps, you need to find out what is the need of your customer. What kind of liquid is it? How much liquid do you need to pump per hour? And what's the height you need to move this liquid? These are some of the key ingredients. And then there'll be other requirements on desired power consumption and stuff like that. And in a interaction with a customer, you need to bring that all down to find what's the kind of base variant of the pump and how should that pump be configured to meet the actual needs. And that's where we come in. We help these companies engineer the variants of their products, We help them sell it with software that guides customers to find the right version they need. We help them manufacture it and service the products after they've been delivered.
Now, when I was doing a bit of research about Configit, I read that you guys are experts in the field of virtual tabulation and binary decision trees. But there's a big selling point. You can make it exciting. So for anyone listening that doesn't know what virtual tabulation and binary decision trees are, can you expand on it a little bit for them? And also, I've got to ask, can you make it exciting?
Okay, I'll try, Neil. I can't promise, but I think that the way I normally like to talk about it is to start with a scenario that most people know about. So the scenario we could talk about is when you have to go and buy a car. So today, when you go out to look for a new car, you have a plethora of options you can choose from. Of course, you have how big an engine do we want, what the color you need, the interior, the exterior color, the infotainment system, adaptive cruise control, self-driving capabilities. There are really many, and it's not unusual if you take one of the premium car brands that you will have more than 3,000 options you can pick among. And that gives a ridiculously high number of variants of the car. This can easily be a number like 10 to the 21st different variants that exist of the car. So it's a 1 with 21 zeros. And all these variants, that's the thing we call configurations. You can then, as a customer, you can probably get what you want among all these. But this is also a big challenge for the manufacturer, of course, because they have to be able to manufacture each and every one of these 10 to the 21st configurations if some customer decided to pick it. And that's what they do. They have an assembly line where they are capable of building each and every one of these, giving the order from the customer. And there are a lot of things that needs to come together to make this work. When you build the car at the assembly line, you need the right parts in the right color with the right cables for exactly that configuration. And it needs to be at the right assembly station on the assembly line at the right point in time. Otherwise, you're not going to get the car the customer want. And you can build cars that don't even work simply because some of the electric system is missing or stuff like that. And this is already in itself a complicated puzzle to map between what the customer orders and how you buy the parts from your suppliers and have it come together on the assembly line. And it's getting even worse these days because now you definitely expect a digital customer journey. So you do expect that you can start exploring your options for your car on a website, on your smartphone or on your computer, and you can go a long way on your buying experience before you have to go and meet a dealer. And then you would expect that you have done some explorations, you've found out some preferences, and then the dealer might help you with some other aspects of it. You might do a test drive, but then the modern customer would be comfortable completing the purchase online. And in order to be able to give the right price and the correct delivery time, all the back-end systems needs to be aligned. So they need to know down to the simplest part of the car, can we really, do we know how to fix that to the car so we can fulfill this order? Can we get it from a supplier? When is it available? So a lot of things have to come together. And this is where our technology can go in and keep that, create that overview. We can model all the different variants. We have tools that help you understand the consequences of it. We can check that the bill of material you need for manufacturing the car is correct. We have software that you can use on the website to guide the customer, software that can be used at the dealership to perhaps give a 3D or VR experience of the product you're about to buy, and have all that come together so that things are consistent and the companies can operate the processes efficiently.
You're so right in what you say there about that customer expectation level now, because I think everybody, like you said, expects that digital buying, personalised experience, but nobody even goes to think about what actually goes on or the investment that's required for those back-end systems to deliver that, do they?
No, and you just expected that it works.
Yeah.
Because you have seen that in the small from other areas. I mean, we just talked about smartphone. So it's so easy to install a new program on your smartphone, an app. You can do it with just your thumb because it recognizes it's you and it's okay with the purchase. It's becoming so easy, and these expectations they spread out, and the products are becoming more complex. There's more software in them, so even after you've purchased, for instance, a car, you can get upgrades to the car. You can get new software installed over air that changes your infotainment system or even the driving behavior of the car, because the engine in the car is also controlled by software. And you can imagine, you use your credit card and then you upgrade the performance of your engine. That's technically doable. And of course, you have to be very careful in knowing what is the configuration of the product then after the customer takes possession of it and changes it over its lifetime, because it still has to be safe, and you have to know how to service it if it needs to go to service, and you might want to monitor it. And this is also becoming widespread. With the Internet of Things, products will be connected to the Internet, and this could, for instance, be back to the original manufacturer, who can track what's going on with the product and might do some preemptive services if one part is starting to wear out, or the manufacturer might also recognize that there's a particular use pattern of the product and use that to come with a new offer for an upsell to a customer of something that you might like, because that fits how you use the product. So there's a lot of digitalization going on in the processes around the products, but also in the products, and all that is sort of increasing the complexity of the products, and this is where we can help. So I see a lot of things happening in the market that requires technology like what we can do. We call this configuration lifecycle management. So it's about managing the configuration of the products from the design and through their full life cycle when they are sold and manufactured, and as they're used by the customer and changed over time. And this is a relatively new topic, this configuration lifecycle management. And every year we have an event where we invite people to come and discuss new approaches to it. And by coincidence, we in fact have one next week. So if someone is interested, they're welcome to join us in Florida at the Space Coast, where we have this year's event going on, where we discuss with manufacturing companies and software companies how to address these interesting challenges on managing configurations of products.
Joining you guys in Florida, that sounds like a fantastic invitation. Whereabouts is it again, and what is the date of that?
It's October 23rd to the 25th, and it's at the Space Coast at Cocoa Beach, a very nice area. And if you come from the cold northern parts of Europe, it's a brilliant place to go in October to get a bit of sun if you want that too. So you can extend the stay for a couple of more days and try the beach.
Oh, sounds like a plan. So you are speaking to us today in Denmark. But is there a thriving startup scene over there? And have you faced any challenges when trying to grow that global tech company while also maintaining your core company culture?
Yeah, Denmark, you're right. Denmark is a relatively small country. Yeah. But there's some interesting things from a startup perspective here. We have a very, in general, well-functioning society, and we have state-funded education for everyone up to and including university level. So that means people are in general well-educated, and you could say there's somehow a system of trying to pick up all the talent in the society and offer education for people. So we also have a small open economy. We are used to trading across borders throughout the world, and we have a long history as a big trading nation. We have had a big trading fleet for many years. Sometimes the British people have destroyed it, but we have rebuilt it. And
can I just say that was before my time. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely, that's a long time ago. No worries, Neil. But there is a strong tradition from interacting with the world and not just looking at the local market. And we have some strong universities in the areas and a very international environment. And in Configit, we have 26 different nationalities among our employees. So these are people with master's degrees and doctoral degrees helping develop our technology. And we simply recruit for the best people, and we don't care where they come from. And then it turns out we get a nice mix of nationalities, which I think is also a value add, where we are a company that sells to the world. It's quite good to have different people in the company understanding the different subtleties in selling throughout the world. And we have now offices also in the US, in the UK, in the Midlands. We have in Germany and in India. And we're growing more rapidly now in the foreign offices outside Denmark than in Denmark. Another interesting thing about Denmark is I think people, when I think about it, seems to be quite innovative. I think there is part of the education that encourages people to think individually and be creative. And we also have a strong tradition of functional design in furniture and also electronic equipment. And I think we see that we're benefiting from this, that people want to build stuff that's appealing, easy to access and use, but also serves their purpose very clearly and efficiently. And I think we profit from that in the company. But apart from, English is a second language to all Danes. I mean, we are such a small country that if you only spoke Danish, it could be a rather boring life. So everybody speaks English. So that has been our company language from day one.
You really do seem to have a fantastic ethos out there. I was chatting to a company called Blip Systems recently based in Denmark, and they're managing the traffic flow in airports all over the world. Very similar to yourself, got offices all over the world. And I think it just shows you how you look at things differently and that innovative culture that you talked about.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's been a tendency to automation and doing things efficiently for many, many years, because part of the price of having this welfare society is that labor costs are high in Denmark. So for many, many years, there's been a natural trend to automate and make all kind of processes efficient if you can, and save on using people to solve the task. And I think that's also something that feeds in here, because we have definitely seen when it comes to manufacturing companies here in Denmark, there are very good companies we have worked with that have also assisted in developing the thinking on what we do, because they have been looking at automation for many, many years.
Now back to Configit, because I think I also read recently that you've formed a strategic partnership that you're hoping will deliver a powerful new configuration solution for both construction and manufacturing industries too. Can you expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, that's right. That's it's part of our overall strategy to use a partner network to reach out, because configuration challenges, they occur in really many places. And in fact, whenever a product or service needs to be tailored to a specific need, and it doesn't need to be a physical product. It could be a financial service. It could be an insurance contract. Whenever you need to adapt that to a specific need, there's a configuration going on, a powerful technology to do it, but there are so many applications areas that we can't go out and try to develop good solutions for all of them. So we are systematically building up partnerships where partners can use our technology to develop their own solutions. And one of the most recent ones is a company called the Kadak Group in the Netherlands. And they have developed, I think, a quite exciting solution where they are using our configuration engine and then have hooked it up to Autodesk. So you can configure buildings in 3D and see the results of your configuration. And our engine ensures that the rules you need to obey to make sure it's a valid, a correct building you're constructing are obeyed throughout the process when you do the configuration. And this is something we see a growing interest in, is having these 3D visualizations of the products you're configuring. And it will be natural to add virtual reality to that. As soon as you have a 3D model, you can see it with VR glasses, and you can even do some augmented reality where you impose the reality on your 3D models. So we're very glad that we see that partners have that interest in working with our technology because they see opportunities in building exciting solutions with it.
So what's next on the horizon for Configit? I mean, what's your grand vision for the next 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, you see, Neil, we want to be the world's configuration platform.
Yeah.
So we believe we have the technology, we have the experience. We've been in business for 17 years now. We have a strong customer base. We've had the fortune to get some of the biggest industrial manufacturing companies in the world as our customers, and I learned a lot from that. So we believe we are in a position where we could offer a strong platform that could help companies manage the challenges. And a platform is important because there's a lot of collaboration going on. Modern business is not one company serving one customer. It's a big network of relationships with suppliers and in long chains that need to work together to deliver products to the market. And when you have these complex products, as we're talking about here, these configurable products, you have some complicated collaboration that needs to go on because you have to be able to communicate what are all the variants my products can be delivered in, and how do they interact with the other products they need to collaborate with. And this is not easy. It's not just sending a simple PDF or document describing that. The only way to really do it is to represent the full space of possible solutions and then have a way to interact with it, with that space. And this is what our technology can do. So we see a need for having a platform where suppliers and manufacturers can work together on developing the products and exchange configurations when they take orders and need to manufacture it. You need to give part of the configuration of the product to your supplier so they know what seat they're going to build to that car, what's going to be in the seat depending on the order of the car. And that's happening a lot. Some of our customers have very big dealer networks, resellers, and they need to make quotations for the customers as a basis of taking an order. So they need to be able to map requirements of a customer to all the options in the products, and they need a tool for that. So with our cloud offering, we're going to offer a platform where companies can collaborate across enterprises to develop and build and deliver these configurable products. And I think the time is right for that. And we're very excited about that.
You really have been on a fantastic startup journey over at Configit. But if there is anyone listening at the very beginning of their startup journey, what's the most valuable piece of advice that you could pass down to them?
Neil, I'm always a little bit hesitant to give advice because I think each journey is unique. Yeah. But if I should try to say something, I would say think big. And that's definitely important when you come from Denmark, because being in a small country, there's still a tendency for people to not think big enough, I think. And these days, the world has never been more global and more transparent. So if you're going to build a business, I would suggest you think global from day one. It's a lot easier to collaborate than ever. It's no big deal conducting conference calls. It's easy and cheap. So you can easily collaborate with people in the world. And when you do software, as we do, there is now technology where you put it in a cloud offering, and it's immediately available throughout the world. So I would, think big, think global market, and you better make the best product for the area you're working in, and put it out there for general availability for the world. Otherwise, somebody else is going to do it, and the chances, of course, is they're going to win. So if I should try something and advise, this would be think big, and it has never been easier than today.
Fantastic advice. Well, a huge thank you for coming on the show today. But before I let you go, can you remind the listeners of your web and social media channels, and also the best way for them to contact a member of your team if they've just got any questions about our conversation today?
Yes, sure. So the easiest way to reach out to Configit staff members is on our website, configit.com. We are also active at Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and our hashtag is just Configit. So you're very welcome to reach us by any of these means, but the easiest is simply to go to the website. There you can also see more information about this CLM Summit and We have a collection of white papers that try to explain what is the topic about and how could you approach it if you're in an area where you think you would need a solution for handling configurable products.
Well, like I said a few moments ago, I think as consumers we do all now expect digital buying, personalised experiences, but we don't have any appreciation for back-end systems, complex configuration, and that's before we even get to artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. I think you've really simplified that and demystified some of that technology at the same time. So a big thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Neil.
I love the story behind Configit and the journey that Henrik has been on to get where he is now, serving clients internationally. And through cooperation with these clients, Configit now takes pride in helping organisations with those complex configuration problems, as well as participating in shaping the future of configuration software, which is a great thing on its own. But this patented technology, virtual tabulation, is exciting too, because this technology has redefined what is possible with configuration in both terms of complexity and speed, but also enables Configit to make software that can handle and utilise those complex product configurations in a way that is both powerful to businesses, but more importantly, easy to use. I also love how Denmark has a fantastic startup scene and their ethos of not following others like sheep, but actually wanting to stand out as being the best at what they do. And for those reasons alone, I can only thank Henrik for coming on today and taking the time to share his story. But we've reached that part of the show where I'd like to throw this back at everybody listening. What are your thoughts on everything that you've heard today and the state of configuration software, the complexity around it and how technology is actually simplifying it, and equally what Configit are bringing to the table? So as always, remember, you can email me at techblogwriter@outlook.com or you can send me a quick tweet at Neil C. Hughes. But I'm afraid it's time for me to go now. But a genuine thank you for taking the time to tune into this show every day. I am conscious that I bombard your podcast feeds with daily shows at the moment. And the fact that you keep coming back means the world to me. So thanks for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.